Hello, welcome to episode 2 of season 2, Tigers, blah, blah, blah. With me, Luke Flanagan, and Rich Walker's here as my co-host.
Now
then. So a few things just...
Now then, that's our new phrase, isn't it?
It is. Every time, isn't it? Now then.
Apparently it's a bit Jimmy Savile, but I mean, I wouldn't know about that.
Leeds would know about that, no, nothing else. Now then. So yeah, it's only now then if you repeat it twice in it, that's when it's weird. It's just if you say now then, it's just a greeting, I think.
Yeah, I know. Well, I've been going around saying it for most of my adult life, so
me
I don't
too,
know what
to be fair.
thought about me.
Well, working in a school that's basically in the middle of farmer community, I have now then and now bar shouted at me all the time. So now bar. So anyone who's,
I don't even know what that means.
It's just like now then, mate, but it's just drift talk. It's just anyone who listens in drift will absolutely know what I'm talking about. But anyway, right. Firstly, big thanks to Danny Johnson and Hull City Ladies. They're our sponsors, and their season starts next Sunday. They played Man United under 21s last week. They did get beaten quite resoundingly, but you would expect that from a Premier League ladies side.
Budget's going to be much higher.
Massively. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was there at the game watching as well, because they played it as a curtain raiser for the first Man United women's game. So that's obviously good for City, raising the profile and stuff. So that's really good. So we'll be down there at some points this season. In partner with FanHub as well. We've got FanHub, the Fans First movement. So check out our bio for the links to Hull City Ladies and for Fans First. Really good guys, and yeah, follow them. Make sure you keep up with all the news that they've got. And also, thanks to our Patreons. So we've got Adam Brown, Rich Fleming, Alex O'Neill, PB Clinical Hypnotherapy, who won the mug last week, Micah San and Aaron Bell. And when I've done the draw this time, it's Richard Fleming, who goes also by Hull City Data, I believe. He is the winner of the mug this week. So congratulations to Rich, and I'll get in touch with him, or you can get in touch with us and we'll sort out all of that. So thanks to everybody for supporting. Just a quick note for those patrons. We're working on some special guests where it will be patrons first. No names mentioned yet. Very exciting. I told Rich, and he was, you were quite buzzing, weren't you, when we had the talk about that. So no names mentioned yet, but it would be a draw, wouldn't it? It would be the biggest guest we've had so far, I think. One of the biggest.
Yeah, I mean, they've all been good, but it's very exciting.
Yeah, it's up there, definitely, isn't it? So a couple of names, actually. Yeah, I did mention the other one to you the other night, Rich. So a couple of names we're working on. We'll get through to that. So anyway, yes, welcome to episode 2. And I think the first thing we're going to do is talk about the games that we watched over the last week or so, because we did our preview and it was just before the Sunderland game. We've now had the Sunderland game and the Leicester under 21s game. So I think if we start with the Sunderland game, which we won, didn't we, on penalties?
Yeah, on penalties. Yeah,
0-0. Be interested to know your thoughts first, Rich, and I'll chip in whenever you have time to take a breath.
Yeah, I was so enthused about the game.
Carabao Cup excitement. EFL
might just ram it on for days and days and days.
Might just blow up with excitement.
Yeah, it was good to be watching a competitive game of football again. I know I said last week that I wasn't massively enthusiastic about it. I think it looked like we were in some areas of the field a new side. The balance wasn't quite there in midfield for me. You could still see that they were trying to get to know each other. I thought Richie Smallwood, I was reasonably impressed with him. I didn't think he was, he wasn't excellent in terms of his impact on the game, but you could see what he was about. He's going to kick everyone that comes near him.
He's that horrible bastard in midfield we never had, wasn't he?
We've been missing one for quite a while.
He's like the Ashby style tackler, That's what we haven't had last season particularly. There's nobody to do that, was there?
No. And I thought George Honeyman in there with him had, if we were full of praise for Honeyman's application and some of his impact on games last year or towards the tail end of last year, then Saturday was maybe back to
how we previously saw him. I didn't think he was brilliant. I thought he gave away fouls needlessly in dangerous areas.
So many. He was. I can't remember whether or not he got booked for persistent infringement.
I think he
must have been close.
I think he did in the end. He was getting on my nerves a bit. I think it was because it was his old club. He's trying to make his mark and stuff, isn't he? But he was trying too hard. It appeared that way,
didn't it?
Trying too hard.
It did appear that way, but he was just diving into tackles and committing silly fouls because he was wrong side of men and still trying to win the ball. And it's just everything that we came to kind of dislike about Honeyman's performances at times last season.
Yeah.
And then Doherty didn't really have much of a chance to make an impact on the game.
He didn't get in the game that much, did he? It was just kind of...
No, he didn't. But then it was a difficult ask for him once Eves had gone off, because that player that could maybe bring him into dangerous situations and that he could look to play off wasn't there. Because, God knows Samuelson's not a centre forward.
Oh, I don't know what he is, mate. I'll tell you what, I was going to bring Samuelson up. I mean, he was poor, weren't he? He was poor in both games, but...
Yeah, he was. I mean,
so lightweight. The kid, you'd be forgiven, I think, from a distance. If you see him and James Berry from the under-23s playing, they look very similar with the hair and the
They do.
stature.
I know you could tell at times in the commentary, I thought, in the Leicester game that James Fletcher was having trouble picking them out.
Yeah, because he was playing out on the left was Berry, and Samuelson went through the middle. But I don't know what McCann's thinking. I mean, I know Eves went off injured, and that's unfortunate for him, because I think Gillingham would have been a big game for him to try and prove himself. So I'm a bit disappointed for Eves, really. Although he didn't show anything up until the first half hour, but he barely got the ball, did he? So, but putting him up there, I just didn't get it. I don't understand why he goes with a target man and then doesn't play to his strengths, which we know that already. It's been done to death. We don't need to go there again. But when he takes Eves off, he then puts Samuelson through the middle and tries... Did for you, did the play change at all? Because it didn't for me.
No, it didn't appear to. I mean, my one big thing about Samuelson is how wasteful he is with the ball.
The back
physically, he's very, very slight as well.
He is. He's very lightweight, and he gets bullied off the ball so easily.
Yeah, but then in the times where he does do it, and we saw this quite a lot on Tuesday night as well. He was trying things where he's almost trying to move the play on too quickly. There were a couple of little flicks around the corner that he tried to do on first time, and it's almost like, keep it simple. All right, you're a technically gifted player. Apparently, I don't think we've seen all that much to say.
I don't think it's fair to judge him that much, because he's barely in the team at the end of last year, and then he didn't even make the squad. But
there's lessons for him to learn, I think, about the responsibility of playing that position. If it is going to be something that we look to, if we're not able to strengthen up front. I know McCann said that he's looking for somebody up there.
I did see that in the press conference today.
Yeah, if Samuelson's going to be an option that we go to, then he needs to learn a little bit about the responsibilities that a centre forward has, or a focal point has, of when they have the ball. You can't necessarily be giving it away and turning it over when your team's in transition, because that's when you expose your defence or your midfield, and it makes it very easy for other teams to play in the spaces that you leave behind.
I think the other thing with Samuelson is, if he loses the ball, he don't kill himself to try and get it back.
No, he doesn't seem to.
He just seems to be like, never mind, that didn't work then. I'll just stand up here and wait for the ball to come again so I can try a stupid back heel. I mean,
there were times on Tuesday night. I didn't watch the game live because, the 5:30 kickoff. I did get in from work.
I did watch it. But I know you've watched the full game back afterwards, haven't you? So
yeah, for some reason I watched the entire 90 minutes back last night.
Well, at least it was a more entertaining game than the Sunderland one, penalties aside.
It was, but I felt like I learned more from the Sunderland game because they're first-team players, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think we're more likely to see some of them. But anyway, what I saw out of Samuelson last night, there were times where he was giving the ball away, and it was, like you say, rather than work to try and make up for his mistake. It's almost like he's looking at other people around him and saying, well, you weren't in position to receive it off me in the first place.
Yeah, he's like, well, I used to play for West Ham, mate, so what are you going to do? Yeah. I don't know if I'm being a bit unfair on him. It just doesn't seem to be that bothered about winning the ball back if he's lost it. That's the big thing for me that I think a lot of City fans wouldn't forgive. If he lost the ball, but then, like I remember, was it Fagan got booked that first game in the Premier League where he lost the ball and he thought, well, I have in Konchesky go up the other end and try and equalise in the 89th minute. I'll clip him out here. Yeah. And he took the booking. City fans love that. I mean, they love Figs anyway, don't they? But that sort of work ethic and, do whatever it takes to kind of stop any counter-attacks or to win the ball back goes a long way with City fans and most football fans, in fairness, I think. But he doesn't seem to have that mentality.
No. I mean, but again, as we said already, with any criticism of him at this early stage in his City career, and given the limited minutes that he's had, could probably, upon reflection, be a little bit harsh.
I want him to do well. I want him to do well.
He certainly wasn't entirely at fault for the way that we played in the Sunderland game. No. I thought there was, we didn't create chances very well, did we?
I'll tell you what, we could have been 5-0 down at half time, mate, against Sunderland.
Yeah, we could have been. We got very, very lucky in that first 20 minutes. Sunderland just. They could have had 4 or 5.
It was like watching the Wigan game again, mate, the way they were coming forward every time. They looked like they were going to score.
And there was still that frailty at set pieces as well, wasn't there?
It was just...
I don't know what we expected with the same centre-back pairing and the same coaching staff, but it's clear that they've still got that in them
I did think
from last year.
I did think with a positive for Sunderland, obviously, when it went to penalties, firstly, we didn't miss one. Everybody put the penalty away pretty well. There was no kind of lucky ones for me, really, was there? I thought Wilkes he was quite cheeky with that one. I thought Wilkes.
Is that the stuttered run-up?
Yeah.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah, it makes me nervous when players do that. It doesn't matter who you play for. I'm just like, because they've all just watched Pogba and think they can do it, but I don't know. They all scored, so that was a positive. I was glad. I love Keane Lewis Potter. I think he's great, but.
Yeah, it's a bit weird how much you love him.
Yeah. I just want local boys to do well, really.
No, I'm with you on that. I'm only pulling you.
I know. But it was written for him to do it when he having the 5th penalty. I was chuffed about that for him. To be fair, and he dispatched it well.
He did take it very well.
The other positive for me was Josh Emmanuel.
Yeah, I was going to mention him. I thought he
was very good. I have a friend who's an Ipswich fan. He lives over in Manchester, but he's an Ipswich fan. And he said, "You're welcome to Emmanuel because he's shit." And I said, "Well, I'll make my own mind up, thanks." And actually, I texted him after the game and said, "You're wrong on Emmanuel because I thought he's solid. I thought he had a really good full debut for us."
Yeah, he did.
So I was impressed by him.
He was. Particularly in that first half when there was him at. At right back and Brandon Fleming at left back, and Fleming had a bit of a torrid time early on.
He got booked as well in that first half, didn't he?
Yeah, and whatever came down our right flank, Emmanuel just seemed to deal with very well, and he also headed one off the line. It was a crucial intervention early on to keep the game. He did,
that was early on. It's quite ironic that now, obviously Louis Coyle should be a good player for us too. We've not seen him yet. Because he's suspended.
And I think everybody expected him to be our first choice right back, didn't they? But already Emmanuel's put his name on the shirt.
And it's just like, well, how ironic now we've got 2 very good right backs in theory, and then we had none last year. It's just a bit strange, isn't it?
Yeah.
I didn't know if there was any other players that stuck out after the Sunderland game before we moved on to the Leicester.
I wouldn't say anybody stuck out. I thought Matt Ingram had some.
He saved the first penalty, didn't he? So
yeah, he had to make a couple of decent saves as well as the game wore on.
I was going to ask you about that. George Long, not even in the squads.
Injured apparently.
Is he really?
I
did look for it on the day, but I couldn't say.
McCann said afterwards to Burnsy that he just got a little knock in training. I think Burnsy had got a sniff that Long had
had a bust up.
Had some kind of training ground bust up. I think he said Malik Wilkes, but I could be wrong on that. But McCann sort of denied it.
Right. Well, he would do though, wouldn't he?
Well, he would, but I mean, this training ground bust ups happen all the time.
Oh yeah, they happen in every club.
I think we would like to sensationalise them. In all the time I've been watching City, I've been down to training once. And that was just after Phil Parkinson had taken over, and I went down with my brother to watch a session. Stuart Ailes was taking it. I think he was the fitness coach at the time, or fitness coach. Yeah. And so I've been to one training session, and at this one training session, Nick Barmby and Stuart Elliott had a massive bust up.
Well, I think Barnes had lots of them with players, didn't he?
Yeah,
but
I mean,
it's just the passion for it, really.
There weren't any punches thrown or anything. They didn't even get into a physical altercation. Like, they didn't even get close to each other. But they were arguing, shouting at each other. They were having a proper argument. So it's like, I've been to one training session and it happened there. So it just makes me think it must be common, because nobody batted an eyelid. Yeah, and just carried on like it happens all the time, I suppose. Sort of yeah, exactly.
That's Barnes having high standards of somebody who was a very good player for us too, though, I would have thought. But
I think it was both of them having high standards.
Yeah, potentially. But yeah, I, even if he did have a training ground bust up, like you say, I think that happens all the time.
Yeah,
I don't think that's anything to worry about. I just haven't heard anything about the injury, but if he's got a knock, then obviously you don't want to be risking even putting on the bench. I mean, he had Cartwright on bench against Sunderland.
Yeah, I mean, you know what will happen tomorrow? Long will be out the squad again, and it'll merge that something's happened.
Yeah, or he's moving, even though McCann said nobody's going out. Long's on his way back to somebody else.
We'll be downplaying it, and then it'll turn out there's something in it.
Yeah, but obviously winning on a win's a win, and I was hoping it'd breathe a bit of confidence into us.
Yeah, I mean, however you get it, all right. 90 minutes it was 0-0, but what matters is that the good feeling after the penalty shootout. It'll just bring the squad together, and whether or not you've won on penalties or you've won in the 90 minutes of football, it's
at least there was no extra time to suffer through either. It was straight to penalties, so it was done.
Yeah, thankfully. So yeah, I think that was good. Of course, we've been rewarded with the shittest of second round ties.
Leeds United.
God.
Yeah, my Twitter. I turned my Twitter off for a while after we got drawn with that, because I'm just bored of all that rubbish.
Yeah, I just didn't even bother checking, because you just knew that the City hashtag was going to be full of people,
Hull Whites,
full of people who aren't obsessed with us because we're small time, telling us how small time we are with their unsolicited comments.
Yeah, we didn't ask, mate.
Yeah.
So, well, I mean, that's something that we don't have to look forward to.
I know.
But then, obviously, Leicester EFL Trophy group. I did want to ask you. I don't know why this is. So we're in a group, aren't we, with three other teams: Harrogate, Grimsby, us, and then obviously Leicester under-21s.
Yeah.
The game should have finished 1-1. That penalty decision was ridiculous. But I was told that it would go to penalties if it was 1-1 at the end. Why is that if we're in a group?
There's an extra point.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah. It's I didn't know that that's the way they did it, but it's not a format that's unfamiliar to me.
Because when James Fletcher said, it goes to penalties at the end, I thought, no, it doesn't. We're in a group. Like, it's a group stage. But obviously then it would have been if it had finished 1-1.
It's some kind of weirdness. They do it in the ice hockey as well.
Oh, do they? Okay.
In North America, yeah. So like a game that finishes tied after overtime goes to a penalty shootout. Both teams get a point, but the winner of the penalties gets an extra point, and they're called a loser's point, a pity point.
Right.
And the idea is there, at least, that it creates parity, greater parity across like an 82-game season. What the thinking is behind it in a 6-game
group
Mickey Mouse competition, I don't know.
I do wonder. I mean, I like the idea in theory of the EFL Cup, but it just doesn't work, does it? I really don't think it's something that's needed currently.
In football, it feels gimmicky.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of done to create excitement and intrigue in a competition.
I mean, we got to watch some of the under-23s players, and I did enjoy watching some of those players because they tried for the shirt. We saw some good quality, especially in the second half. I thought. Don't know about you.
Some of them they acquitted themselves very well. You know, all right, it might not have been stupid statement. Leicester's full strength under 23.
Who cares if it is or not? I mean,
but there will still have been very good players in there because I think they finished second in Premier 2 last season.
I mean, they've got a good academy system. They've got some good players that have come through in the last few years. Look at Chilwell and Hamza Chowdhury and people like that.
For some of City's players to come out with the positive showings that they had, it was a very good thing. And people quick to react negatively. I think was kind of following the commentary along on Twitter. Obviously not watching the game, and I know people quite negative saying the first half was dour, but I thought there was
I don't think there was that much in it.
To like about
I don't think there was that much in it. To be honest, I thought Cartwright nearly gave away one, but recovered well when Hurst was in.
But there were still things to enjoy, even though there weren't loads of shots on goal and what have you. There were still things to enjoy about it. I do think Lewis Potter played very well. The first half created a couple of opportunities.
It's when he cut inside. I thought he could have bent it to the far post, and he kind of went near post. But that obviously it shows his inexperience. I'm not bothered about that. But at least he's cutting in. He's doing what we know he can do. I think people get. I don't know about you, but the stuff with the data and stuff, or like statistics and stuff, I think, for me, I know it was a kind of a Mickey Mouse competition, as you say, but I actually enjoyed watching that Hull City Leicester 21 games. I actually enjoyed watching it more than I did the Sunderland game, because the Sunderland game just felt like, well, we'd barely have any shots on target. We should have been 5-0 down. And then obviously when the penalties, when we win on penalties, obviously I'm happy about that. And it's a nice end to the game. But I felt really sorry in the end for our young lads, because I thought, I mean, the penalty decision, I just laughed out loud. I thought he'd book him for simulation, because he threw himself at Jones and went down and was like, oh, he bounced off him, like, oh, friend. So, and ref took about 3 or 4 seconds thinking about it and just gave it, because he thought, I need to get home for my tea. I can't be asked with a pen shootout as well. Right, I'll give it. I'll give it.
Let's just have one.
Yeah. And it just seemed a little bit, I don't know, it definitely wasn't fair, because I thought, I mean, McCann usually gets slated for his changes because he usually just does personnel that's swapping and not changing the system. But he chose
far too late.
He chose the right personnel, because once we started moving the ball through the thirds, like we did with Jones to Batty and then Batty out to Chadwick, that cross was beautiful.
It was fantastic, yeah.
And then obviously Lewis Potter still got a lot to do there. Diving header made it look easy for me. But that sort of football reminded me of City of old in some respects. Like passing it through quite quickly and whipping the ball in like El Mohammadi used to do even maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And it just kind of went, well, we've not had that all game. The second half, particularly after we conceded, we really went at them and we could have scored 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, we finished the game very strong.
And it just felt like a proper sucker punch to me with that penalty, because they didn't deserve that by the end of it.
No, and it's like you say, it was soft as. I know we were talking about it earlier today. Like, does it rank up there with the worst penalty award that you've ever seen? I
mean, I always exaggerate when I'm talking to you anyway.
Yeah, it was very, very poor.
It was poor, wasn't it?
I know that the example I gave you was Tyrone Mings' non-existent penalty award at Burnley in 2009.
I don't know how that got pushed out of my head, but now I remember it. I'm like, God. That was a fat worse one, because what the fuck was that?
Game, I can just remember being apoplectic. Like Mike Jones, that penalty award.
Fucking
disallowing Giovanni's perfectly good free kick.
Nothing wrong with that.
Sending him off.
Nothing wrong with that. So unbelievable.
God, that game. But no, it was harsh. It was never, ever, ever a penalty.
Feels like a Vietnam flashback, that one. You weren't there, man.
You weren't there. You don't
know, man. I blacked it out from the memory. It's like some repressed memories of mine that have just come back.
It happened. it happened right down in front of us as well. I can remember Mings kicked. He went to cross it, but he ended up poking the ball with his standing foot, and then his momentum of the air kick with his right foot made him fall.
Unbelievable.
And it's so exaggerated that me, my dad, and my brother were all laughing at him. Everybody around us was laughing, and then Mike Jones gives a penalty. It's like, you what?
It's almost like Mike Jones' AJ went. They would be laughing in a minute and giving this here.
What an awful referee he was.
Oh yeah. Good lord. Anyway, we digress as usual. It's always fun. But yeah, I had cause to be optimistic. I did think that. I agree with what you said, that I did think there was a lot of negativity surrounding it, and just I think
overly so as well. It was histrionic negativity.
A lot of the people who were being negative didn't watch the game because
whether they did or they didn't, I think one of the things we have with City fans at the moment is, and some of it's legitimate, is that we have so little reason for positivity that sometimes we end up being negative where really there's no cause for it. Overly so.
Yeah, I'd say that's fair.
That's not me saying everything's rosy and we need to be positive all the time. But when you've got two development squads playing each other, I did not see the need for this over the top kind of, just misery, doom and gloom. It was like you say, it was good to watch, and it was good to see some of the young lads out there and get an idea as to what they might be able to offer us.
Well, Greaves as well. Well, let's not miss Greaves making, what was it? How many years was it since he's followed in his dad's footsteps, wasn't it?
Yeah, was it 24?
I think it was 96. Was it 95 or 96 season he made his debut, and then he's made it pretty much day for day, 24 years later or whatever it was.
God, that makes me feel old.
I know, me too.
I love that though.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
That's it's part of a proper, a club tradition that, and not necessarily City's tradition. I mean, it's part of building a tradition at a football club that you get people from the same family, brothers and sons and fathers playing for the same club. I think that is, it's a really nice story.
Proper that,
and he played really well. Him and Jones alongside each other.
Yeah, I like the look of them both. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought McLaughlin had a steady away game at left back. Arthur was a little bit shaky.
I don't think he's a right back. I think I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know enough about him, but I think he's more suited to centre back. Having watched him, because you was there at Gainsborough as well when we watched the 23s. Yeah. I think he is more naturally a centre back, but he was a little bit suspect, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean there was a couple of passes that were just undercooked. It's like, oh god.
Yeah. Oh, it's when he tried to hit it back to Cartwright. I was like, "What's he doing?" He gave out for a corner. Yeah. God. Yeah, that was
I think the biggest word of praise from the entire night was Callum Jones.
Oh yeah, he looked good in that midfield, didn't he?
Yeah, what a
diamond
show display he put in.
I'd hope, I'd love to see him on the bench tomorrow. I'll say that. I don't know if he will be or not, because obviously you've got players coming back from international. Scott's back, McGuinness, but
I mean, I don't know if I'd throw him in. I think the thing with these young lads is you don't want to chuck him in too fast, too soon. But playing well on Tuesday night and then travelling with the squad, going through all the preparations and things like that he'll go through this weekend, that's a big part for his development, and hopefully we'll eventually get to see him make the step up, because there were some exciting passages of play for him in that game. He closed down very well. He was snapping into tackles. He looked good turning away from pressure and finding a pass as well.
He was very calm, wasn't he? Very accomplished on the ball, I thought.
He was. I mean, you don't want to go overboard with the praise, but
I understand that, but I do think when you, like you said before, if you've got so many negatives around the club, but you've got a genuine midfielder who knows how to play that position and who's only so young, I think it's something that I'm excited for this season. Maybe 2 or 3 months down the line, if injuries hit, he'd be the one that you want to come in, wouldn't it?
Even just getting to watch him develop in the EFL trophy.
I'm pretty sure he'd be a starter in most of those games.
You'd think so, and it was strange actually seeing the contrast between his performance and Dan Batty's performance, because I thought Batty was fairly poor.
I thought for the goal he did what Batty does well, which was trying to find that through ball. He did that well to Chadwick, but I think other than that, Batty didn't have a great game.
No, he didn't. So yeah, it was an interesting contrast, but yeah, definitely good to see Jones playing so well. And then James Berry had a decent game, continued the kind of form that we saw at Gainsborough. So
yeah,
I like we've already said, didn't get the doom and gloom. There's some reason for encouragement.
Same here. With this section, we were just going to look ahead to the Gillingham game, which is obviously, it'll be today when people hear this, but it's tomorrow for us right now. How are you feeling about the opening day of the season, Rich, without being able to go?
Sad.
Because
I feel sad about it.
I think Priestfield was somewhere where you'd have been going, isn't it?
Yes.
I think I'd have been going too, to be honest. But,
yeah, it's a definite. Well, as much as anything can be a definite, given that the fixtures came out in the middle of a pandemic, where fans are locked out of the ground. Were it a normal season, I would definitely be going.
Yes. Yeah.
So I feel sad about it. There are certain things about tomorrow that do kind of give it like that new season feeling. I am a 34-year-old football kit geek. So I'm looking forward to going into town tomorrow and getting my new City shirt.
Nice.
Please, no judgment. It's my
no
money.
judgment over here, mate.
Yeah, it's my money. I'll spend it on what I like.
You do right. You do as you want.
I don't care if
right.
it's for kids. Let me live. So there's that to look forward to, and
that bloke's got a small knob because it says small wood on his back.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I mean that is exciting that we can get the new shirt and stuff, and I actually quite like all that training gear. The kind of mint green stuff.
Yeah, it's good that. Yeah,
I quite like that colour. It's different. It is different.
So there's that kind of gives you that kind of like, football season starts tomorrow, new shirt and blah blah blah. Yeah. But yeah, I do feel it's mixed feelings. I don't like watching football on streams. It's not what going to football is about for me.
No, I agree.
Like with the games towards the end of last season, they were crap.
Even that one we won, mate.
Yeah,
I mean that Middlesbrough game was dog, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was like a bit of a novelty jumping around my living room celebrating a goal. With kind of the frenzy and fervour that I did Wilkes winner that day.
Not another point after that.
Well, yeah, counted for nothing.
Still put an awful expression on Thingy's face, wasn't it? Warnock's face. That was great to see.
What I was going to say was, it's like the games were crap, but I always feel like if I go to games and I'm in the stadium and I'm with my family or I'm with friends, it's like I feel like I always get something from the experience. Yeah,
even if the day, what was it? Don't let the football ruin a good day out.
Oh, don't let the football spoil a good day out at the football.
Yeah. Who was it who said that?
I think it was Danny Baker.
Was it Baker?
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? It's not just about watching the footy, is it? But when you watch it at home, it is just about that. Because...
Yeah, it's literally like you just distill it down to its basic element, which is about a football game.
That's it.
And when it's like I say at the end of last season, when it is as poor as it is, the experience is nowhere near the same. It cannot possibly compete.
No.
Watching games on TV cannot possibly compete with being in the stadium. And I know when we were talking to Rich Garden the other week, he said that nobody falls in love with Hull City watching them on TV. And he was absolutely...
I remember what he said about it. He said some people have fallen in love with watching Man United on the telly or whatever, but for him it was all about cigarette smoke or cigar smoke and like the atmosphere and stuff like that.
The smell of stale chips at the back of South Stand at Boothry Park and stuff like that. Like I can remember that as physically as I can remember like seeing the like vivid hue of the turf under the floodlights and stuff like that about Boothry Park. So it's spot on with that. And because I've fallen in love with City by going to games, experiencing it in this way
doesn't feel right, does it?
It's nowhere close to what I love about going to football. And I know people will say, "Oh, you can go to non-league and stuff like that because their games are open." It's not the same. It's not the same because it's not. It's not
your club, is it?
It's not my club. No.
You would like if City weren't playing and non-league was on, you'd be like, "Yeah, I'll watch some football." Yeah,
I might do.
But it's not. It wouldn't be your first choice because it's not the team that you are affiliated to.
Yeah. So however poor tomorrow is, watching it on a stream, I would still rather do that than go and watch a non-league club. And some people would say, well, that's, more for you and blah, blah, blah. But that's because I love it. And even watching it on a stream is like...
At least we get something, but it's still not the same. Yeah,
it's nowhere near the same. So I've mixed feelings about it. What about you?
Yeah, well, I mean, I am similar to you. Admittedly, I watch pretty much... I've always watched City ever since we were kids, and for the last couple of years, I haven't been as present in the ground. I've been over the last couple of years. I wasn't a stay away person per se, but obviously I did play, amateur football myself on a Saturday until last year. Mm-hmm. So that often clashed with City unless it was a late kickoff or a Sunday game.
Yeah, you were doing that.
I was doing that.
I'd always arrange my weekends around City.
That's it. And obviously I would often rearrange my weekends around City previously, but getting to the age that I thought, well, I've not got that long left of actually playing because I'm becoming a bit of a fat bastard. So,
aren't we all?
Yeah. That's not just lockdown, is it? That's just middle-aged spread coming and, whatever else. But
early onset.
That's it. But yeah... being able to have that chance, because obviously I was going to give football up. I don't mean watching it, I mean playing. I was, we played together, didn't we, a few years ago? And then I kept playing, but I changed to Saturdays, and I was ready to give it up because I was playing Sundays again and not enjoying it. And then I joined Drift JFC, and I played at Humber 1 a couple of times, and I was playing County Prem. So ironically, the older I got, the higher up I went in the divisions, and I was enjoying it more. But it just got to the stage where I wanted to do more work just about with watching football. So obviously I'd do the writing that I do and everything, but I'd then started non-league writing, didn't I, last year? So particularly with Ferriby was the last role that I'm not at now because I'm focusing on City. But it was different for me because I'd watch the games afterwards rather than go to them last season.
And
towards the end... Sorry, go on.
You watched a fair few, the significant games and stuff on TV, and because you spent time in the States as well, you've been away, and that was your connection to the club in that way that time, wasn't it?
Yeah. So we'd obviously growing up together and always being at City every week. I wasn't as present as you for different parts because either I wasn't there in the country, or lots of other things. It wasn't the same. But having not been, obviously I'd always be a City fan, always. But I was more, ironically, when we couldn't go to the games, when the lockdown happened and then the resummation of the season this time, when we started the podcast, I then became far more desperate to go back because it was something I couldn't do. I think having the choice and going, I could go to City or I could play this after. I'll play because I ain't got that long left in me. Now it would just be, well, even I have people still ringing me saying, "Oh, can you come and play?" And I'm like, "No, because I'm watching City."
Yeah,
because I'm doing a live text commentary tomorrow, for example. So I'll be watching the game and blogging along with it, and even that I like much more than playing. And 2 years ago, I wouldn't have said that. I would have been very much like, I'd rather play, while I can. But now it's just gone back to how I used to be when I was younger. And I just want to watch City.
Yeah.
Like even I said to you, didn't I? I said, I don't know if I'll watch that Leicester game. Because I don't know if I'm home from work in time and whatever else. And in the end, I got back 15 minutes before kickoff and I thought, yeah, I'm getting it. I'm watching it. And I'm glad I did in the end. Because if I didn't, I'd have watched it back like you did. But I just felt, I'm excited for the season to start, even though, as you say, it doesn't feel the same. Because I think it would have been an away game had I gone to. The last away game I can remember us two going to was a couple of seasons ago. We went to Rotherham.
Rotherham, yeah. And
that was under Nigel Adkins, and that was great, wasn't it?
Yeah, good night.
It was a really good night, that. was with your brother and Eddie, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So days like that are what I'm really missing at the minute, because I want to go to an away game with a load of mates and just have a bit of a laugh and just enjoy the atmosphere of a stadium, and you can't do that now.
Can't do that. You can't get that community together, which is what it's about. You know, days like the first day of the season, it's that unknown, the hopes there. You don't know which way it's going to go. Everything's possible. You
say the unknown, it's 4-3-3, mate. That's
well, that's a nice segue. It's a nice segue to how we think it'll go.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just looked at the whole live. I think it was Phil Buckingham's piece, and he's predicted his starting lineup, and he's gone with Ingram, Emmanuel, Burke, Device, Fleming, Smallwood, Honeyman, Doherty, Wilkes, Scott, McGuinness, which is pretty much the same team, bar McGuinness and Scott, as started for Sunderland.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't say that, even though I might want a couple of different players in there, I think that's what he's going to go for. But the only question mark for me is Honeyman. I don't know if he'll start him.
I think he will.
So I don't know. I don't know about McGuinness either. He just got sent off for Northern Ireland. He loves a red card, that lad, doesn't he?
I think McGuinness will start as well.
I think he will, because he's the only really recognised, experienced striker we've got with Eve's been out, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I know we're all clamouring for Lewis Potter to start, and I think there is going to come a point where he really...
He's going to have to do it at some point. I don't think tomorrow's the game, though.
He's making he's really pressing his claim to start.
Well, I mean, he scored, which is more than we did when, in even any of the last competitive games, we were nilled significantly. Weren't we, at the end of the season, and we didn't score in open play against Sunderland. The first time we scored in open play, God knows how much, it was Lewis Potter that did it. So I do think he'll be on the bench, and he'll probably come on, probably about 68 minutes. I don't know about McGuinness, but with him being on international duty and everything, I'm not sure how up to speed he'll be. I don't think Scott played, did he?
Don't think so.
When he was away. So I'd be interested to see how Scott gets on tomorrow. I do think he'll start. I think he'll be there. Because there were flashes here and there of promise at the end of last season, but he'd just come back from a long-term injury, so you couldn't expect too much of him.
No, it was a time when we needed him to deliver, but in any other season, you'd be looking at it and thinking, well, he needs to find his way. Yeah. A, coming back from injury, B, in a new team, and C, at a new level of football. So there's a lot going against him. Because he scored so early on against Birmingham, I think a lot of people expected him to do that every week. Yeah. And you just won't have it in, one, a young player who's new to the league, and two, somebody who, again, is young and coming back from a serious injury where he'd been out 6 months. So I'd be interested to see how Wilkes gets on tomorrow. Yeah, mixed bag against Sunderland for him, wasn't it? It was. I like Wilkes. I think he shows flashes of ability. The thing with him, I said it to somebody on Twitter, I can't remember who it was, but the thing with him is he can look quite untidy at times. It's almost like he's not coordinated when he's running, or he doesn't know which way to turn. He looks clumsy. Yeah, he will sort of push his way kind of into situations, and it's sort of as if he will do things through not brute force. That's the wrong phrase, but it's like by power and kind of blundering his way into situations, rather elbowing his way through, rather than just gliding past the bloke, like making him on. Yeah, he doesn't beat people. I mean, ridiculous comparison. He doesn't beat people in the same way that like Jarrod Bowen would. No, but that you are aiming at, with the type of player he is. He'd like to be that sort of player, wouldn't he? Yeah, he's got the number 7 on his back, so he should be, he should be that sort of flair player that we look to. But it's as if he finds himself in decent situations almost through sheer force of will rather than anything else. And then he often picks the wrong pass. But he's very frustrating. He is a frustrating watch. But then he scored a good number of goals at the back end of last season. He was our top scorer in 2020, wasn't he? Yeah, he was. So I think there's something in there. So I think he'll start again. Yeah, I think he will.
I would think he would probably go with, again, Ingram. Emmanuel, for me, has got to start.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'll bring in the more experienced Burke and Device, although I would like to see Jones at some point because I thought he did well. I don't think it's probably ready just yet because if he's not played that much for Southampton.
That's what I was going to say. I'd imagine with him doing the full 90 the other night that it was almost more to get it in his legs, and maybe it's part of an extended pre-season for him and he'll just be there as cover.
And you'd expect Fleming to start, seeing as though he didn't play at all. He didn't feature, did he, at left back because it was McLaughlin. So McLaughlin will probably drop to the bench.
No. I mean, what's the situation with Elders? He's back in training, isn't he?
Yeah, he is, but I think it's come too soon for him this game. I think it'll be next week against Crewe at home. I think it is next week. So it may be. Yeah, I think it'll be too late for him tomorrow. I don't even know if he's been named in the squad. But we'll see tomorrow. I can't see anything more than a 1-0 Gillingham win. But that's just me being really pessimistic. If we play like we did against Leicester, although the same players won't be playing, that was the thing I was going to say to you. Ironically, I think our young lads can play 4-3-3 a lot better than the senior pros.
It looked like a slightly altered 4-3-3 though. There was definitely
there's a little bit more of a kind of.
It was like a 3-1 and a 2 rather than a 3 across the top.
Yeah. But that switch worked because we've scored. But I mean, he's not gonna go anything other than 4-3-3 to start with tomorrow, is he? He's gonna do that. A Smallwood will be holding probably with Honeyman, and then Doherty will be in front of them too.
Yeah, I would imagine that would be the case.
So Gillingham, I think, will be a physical side.
They're a decent outfit at that level. Finished 10th in the league. They've had a sort of mixed pre-season. I think
they've done well in some games when I've looked, but I just think, I think they have had a mixed bag. But at least they've had a pre-season that they've reported because we didn't have one. But Steve Evans, isn't it?
It is.
Manager.
Yes. It was funny. Phil Buckingham tweeting his piece with Steve Evans' comment saying that City are far too big for the division.
Where have we had that before? I'm sure that was whoever was in charge of Oxford at the time, way back in 2000. Yeah, Ian Atkins. It's 2003, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm sure he gave us digs, and then we finished above him.
He did. He said something to the effect that if he'd had the squad and the budget that Peter Taylor had, he'd been running away with the league.
HMS pissed the league. I think he'd be steering. I think that's what he was getting at.
And then his Oxford team came to us and we absolutely tonked him at the KC.
Brilliant.
Good night, that.
Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember Evans losing his shit on the sideline that time.
Yeah, I cannot stand Steve Evans.
That's
what I was going to say. Buckingham saying about his comments. It's like it was a blast from the past. It's like, bloody hell, Steve Evans. I've really enjoyed not having to think about people like Steve Evans for the last 15 years. It's been great.
Yeah. Odious toad.
He is. He's like, yeah.
He's toad of turd all, isn't he?
That's what I was going to say.
He's a Scottish toad of turd all.
Poop.
Yeah. Good stuff. So yeah, it should be an interesting battle tomorrow. What are you predicting? It's funny,
isn't it? Talking about teams at this level, it's like we haven't had to think about these teams,
no,
and these clubs for so long that it's like coming down to League One, and all of a sudden you have to kind of look at games and like, well, that might be a tough one. We don't know, A lot of us don't know anymore. We've become so used to the rarefied air of the Premier League, and then what a lot of us see is kind of our natural level, which is the Championship.
I mean, I have done a fair bit of research for different articles I've written and stuff about League One, but I will say it wasn't a league I've paid attention to last year that much. I've had to go back and look at. We had no interest. If I wasn't writing about City, then it wasn't something that I knew, and I did know some things, but I didn't know an awful lot. So teams like Gillingham, we've not had to kind of look at them as opposition and say, well, when was it we played them last? And that does add to the new season feel and the excitement of new teams that we've not played for a long time to me. But according to like the odds, if you look at the odds, we're actually underdogs tomorrow.
Slight outsiders, aren't we?
Yeah, Gillingham are marginally shorter odds.
Yeah.
I don't. I think a 1-0 win
for a good start.
Yeah, I do. I would take a score draw tomorrow. I want to see us score some goals, but a draw away from home wouldn't be the worst result in the world. I don't know about you, how you think it's going to go.
Yeah, I mean, I was reading the piece in the Mail today where the local media were giving their predictions, and it all seemed quite gloomy.
Yeah.
Particularly David Burns, I thought it made for quite a funny read. How down he is on City's prospects. But
I mean, we'll get to that maybe later on, slightly, in a bit more detail.
But what I was going to say, what I took out of that was there were some very good points about how difficult it can be to reverse things when you're on or to
it's the mentality thing, isn't it?
You can't reverse things when you're in a slide. It's like how you stop a slide and start to build that winning kind of mentality and a little bit of momentum.
They always use the term. They always use the term marginal gains and things and all of that sort of thing, don't they? But
yeah,
the bit that it should have been building on the performance that, you know, if the first team, I assume, will have been there watching on Tuesday.
Apparently they were, yeah.
They can't have been discouraged by what they saw. You know, they young lads giving their all for the shirt and getting robbed in the last minute by a dodgy header. You know, it doesn't really matter about the result because we don't care about that league, do we? We don't care about that cup, the trophy, whatever. But to see us finally score a goal at the KC for the first time in a long time of trying, and have a performance in the second half where you think, well, we could have nicked it there. I know it's a development squad and everything else, but going on from good performance there and then winning on penalties, you've got to take the positives out of those games to try and get the players ready and firing for tomorrow, haven't you? Really, you can't.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm honest, I don't know how much effect that game will have on the first team.
Well, there's only Dan Batty who was first team who played. Really.
But yeah, I mean, you know, Alfie Jones and
well, they will be first team. But
McLaughlin will be in and around, won't they?
Yeah.
But I'm not sure what that will do for the other lads, and kind of stopping the rot that has definitely set in. It is just going to be difficult, and I think the importance of getting a few wins and draws and stuff like that early on can't really be understated if we're going to try and make an attempt at the automatic promotion spots.
I think that's what he talked about today, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, and
I think that's an awfully long shot. In fairness,
if I'm honest, I can't see it, and
no.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's the unknown. It's like, what are we going to do this season? We're in, because we are in such a downward spiral, or we're at the end of last season. It's kind of, where does it stop? And it needs to stop very quickly if we're going to have any chance. I mean, McCann has to be on a short leash as well.
I think Robbie McKenzie may play tomorrow on a different topic.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting story.
I was just looking at the possible lineup for Gillingham, and I noticed Jack Bonham is in net for them potentially. Do you remember what relevance he has to City?
No, tell me.
He was in goal when McCormack scored that lob when they played Watford, when Leeds played Watford, when we was relying on them for us to go up to the Prem in 2013.
No, we weren't relying on them. We'd already done enough.
It was then El Mohammedi's dance afterwards. Lots of people remember, but Jack Bonham was the Watford keeper that day.
Right. Okay.
So
stato.
Is
that a stat or just a fact?
Well, it's just factoid, isn't it? Fact. Yeah. But yeah, that's an interesting link to City. I don't think there's any other ones on there looking at the squad other than obviously.
Maybe he'll do us a favour tomorrow.
Maybe. But yeah, they won midweek, didn't they, in the EFL trophy? I think they beat Crawley. But again, I don't think it'll be a competition they're taking too seriously. It's very much a fringe team that will have played there as well. So that's no judge for who they're going to play.
Was it Crawley they played?
Yes.
It's a Steve Evans derby then.
It was, yeah. He was there, wasn't he? Well, he's been all over. He's been all over that lad, hasn't
he? Yeah.
God, Steve Evans. So we're going to do any other business for the last section.
Yeah, there's been a fair bit to talk about.
There has. Do we want to start with the Humberside controversy?
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
I think it's a big shame, to be honest. I like listening to Burnsy and people. I always think they're a good commentary team, to be honest. I've seen a lot of negatives, I will say, on social media regarding the Humberside team, and I think it is unwarranted, personally. But it's not, we'll be watching the game, won't we? We'll be streaming it. It's those people that, for me, like the older generation who will always listen on the wireless, as it would be, they've last 20, 30 years, whatever, they've been listening to the same commentary team, and it's almost like it's done out of spite. It seems like, well, they've used the coronavirus and the lockdown and losing money as a kind of excuse to just have yet another PR disaster, where in the summer they've actually signed, the club have actually signed some decent players. We've strengthened the squad in areas that we needed to be strengthened.
Yeah, it's been...
It's like trying to build those relationships back up after such a poisonous end to the season. And yet, the eve of the season, what do? They don't renew the contract, and they say, if you want to listen to it, you're going to have to pay us some more money. And by the way, we'll still take all your money out for your season passes. And fans are rightly really frustrated. And I know there's one of the patrons, Mike Hassan, who's a good mate of mine. I've not seen him for many years. He lives out in Kuwait now, but his mum still lives here. And she was absolutely gutted because he messaged me and said, I'm fuming at this because it's not for me, it's for my mum. She's, a lot older than I am, obviously. She's stuck in her ways. She won't want to watch it by streaming. She won't, older people are not always au fait with technology the same way and want to change the ways of doing things, do they?
No,
your granddad would be the same. I'm sure you've had conversations with him, and you show him how iFollow works, and he'll probably say, "Well, why is it 5 minutes behind, Rich?"
Yeah, or there's people who are have visual difficulties and things like that.
It just feels really insensitive and like a cheap shot. Just a little bit like, let's just sort of poke them a little bit more.
It's just
it feels like I'm not saying it is that, and I'm not defending anybody either. But I do think a lot of fans will feel it. It feels like that, and it's the timing of it that I think was so disappointing.
Yeah, it's one more thing that makes it feel a little bit more like there's another barrier to supporting your club.
That's it. By that time as well, the eve of the season, well, I know it was the EFL, the Carabao Cup, but people will have missed listening to City and they thought, yeah, I'll tune in tomorrow. And it just feels like it's automatically done as this cheap shot. As I say, I just think it's very poor. And a lot of people rely on that. If people are listening at work or whatever else, you've got your radio on. It just feels such a shame that a lot of the fan base are now alienated and will probably, as a result, not spend the money for the club. They've lost out with that because the majority of people who would have listened, they're not now going to subscribe to the Tigers TV stuff, are they? Well, iFollow or whatever we've got now.
It's more likely to be a move that pushes people away than draws
exactly.
them in. Yeah,
I just think it's poor thinking all round, but
it's short-sighted, isn't it? Definitely.
Yeah, I just think the hierarchy at the top of the club has been short-sighted a lot of the time. We go back to the Jackson Irvine and Eric Leahy thing. How short-sighted was it not to give them another month's severance pay and it left us without an experienced midfielder, without a right back. And I'm not saying it would have kept us up, because it probably wouldn't have done, but it didn't help situations, did it?
But it's a decision symptomatic of the way that things are going, or have been for quite some time.
And I do think it's a shame as well, because, as I say, it was vitriolic at the end. I mean, how fuming were we on the last episode we did of season 1 properly, after McCann had said what he'd said and said the owners have been first class. Down. And we waited a couple of days, didn't we? Because we were texting each other after the game against Cardiff, and we were fuming, weren't we? But after that,
proper fumming, mate.
Proper fumming. Inbox me. Too many snakes around here. But I just thought it was after all of the summer, and then you think, hey, you tell you what, making some decent signings here. It's almost like they were trying to build back up a little bit and think, right, we're going to have a go with this. Club's still up for sale, whatever, but we want to try and get back up and everything else. And in some ways, they were going the right way about it. And then it's almost just like they've built half a building, and then they've just nuked it with this. I don't know what your thoughts are on the situation, but
yeah, I mean, it's like I say, it's just something else that puts a barrier in the way of people being able to support the club through whatever means they can. I always try and look at things kind of in an even-handed fashion if I can. So I understand, in a way, what they were saying about trying to maximise revenue streams.
Yeah.
But I cannot see this move having the impact that would make it a worthwhile decision on club finances. I mean, they might say that every penny counts and you don't become a millionaire by chucking pennies about and what have you.
But you're destroying half your fan base with not being able to listen to the game in the first place, so then spend the money on other things.
Yeah. That's why I think it's something that in the cold light of day, it's not a worthwhile decision to say, well, we'll take this access away from people. This is an area that's already deprived in a lot of senses, and to remove people's ability to be able to listen to these games for free at a time when there will be people losing jobs, and we can't even go to the grounds if we wanted to.
No,
I think it's short-sighted, and I think they might argue that it's a positive move because it might bring some extra money into the club.
I can't see it.
I can't, but that might be their argument.
Yeah, I get that. I do get that.
I cannot see the money that it would. I can't see the money it would bring in being worthwhile when you offset it against the damage that it does for the club in terms of reputation.
Because I think personally, I mean, I don't know about you, but say if people weren't going to tune into the games because they don't want to spend a tenner to watch a game against Sunderland or whatever, right? I get that. You may listen to Burnsy on the radio if he was able to commentate, whether he was with Swanee or whether Matt Dean's there or Mike White or whoever, right? You'd listen to that. That wouldn't cost you anything because, again, the BBC is part of the licence fee that you pay, isn't it? So it's no more outgoings than you'd normally have. However, if there was a good result at Sunderland, like there was, you might say, hey, tell you what, I love that City shirt. Next week, I'm feeling positive now about the season. I might go down the club and I might spend 40 quid on a shirt. You're not going to get that now because they're going to go, do you know what? Fuck them. I'm not going to do that. Spiteful bastards. Because I can't listen for free, I'm now not going to give them my money for any merchandise. That's how it feels to me, that people will make that decision. And rightly so, I think, in lots of people like me and you are absolute mugs and we'll end up buying the City shirts that we want and still watching the games, but not everybody's in those positions, are they?
No, and fair enough if people feel that way, that it's just one more thing, and it's, for a lot of people, it might be the last straw, and there will have been other people whose last straw came sooner.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like you say, sometimes you do think, are we daft for carrying on and doing what we do, but it's, everybody has to come to those decisions themselves. I have my own reasons for still wanting to go and still having my membership and what have you.
I think that's the thing. Like, I think a lot of, again, with City, I think sometimes the danger is that a lot of people do focus on negatives too much, and I think fans end up bickering because some people say there's no, oh, well, if none of us bought anything, therefore they'd clear out. I don't think it's as simple as that.
I'm not convinced.
I'm not convinced either. And I do think that if you make that decision yourself and say, I'm boycotting, I'll always support the club, but I'm not going to put any money, any single penny into that club whilst they're still there. I think that's their right to do it. And if that's what you want to do, I wouldn't have a problem with it. I also wouldn't have any problem with people who say, don't care, I'm going home and away every single game because that's what I want to do. That's what I've always done and I'm never going to change. I don't see why people who are boycotting or staying away would then get into arguments with people about people who wouldn't stay away. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah,
it seems a little bit fractious and a little bit unnecessary when we're all City fans.
That's the way it's been now for 7 years.
I know it is, but it just feels worse than ever now after that thing. Because even if you didn't watch the game, even if you were driving home from somewhere else, on comes Burnsy. We listen to the commentary of probably City losing 1-0, but we still listen, don't we? And now it's updates and actually live commentary of Scunthorpe. I mean, all due respect, I don't want to listen to Scunthorpe. I don't want to listen to Lincoln. I don't want to listen to Grimsby Town. I'm not bothered. It used to be that City was one of the main ones that they cover, and you have live commentary from there and everything else. And now I know the commentary team is still at the game, but it just feels weird that's another way that they've tried to get in. And I don't know if it's something to do with how badly McCann handled the questions Burnsy threw at him at the end of the season. It almost feels like it's almost a revenge shot in some respects. I don't know if it is, and I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I don't know if it's just that little spiteful thing towards the BBC that was, they were asking me unfair questions that I didn't like.
I mean, we couldn't possibly say really on that one, could we?
No, I know, and that's me delving into it a little bit too much, probably. But it does still feel like it's a little bit of a cheap shot and one that he just got Eab's sort of wry smile on it because he's just going to say that it makes business sense to do what he's done. Not sure. Well, that was the first item anyway. We talked 12 minutes about one item. Was there any other business you wish to discuss?
I was going to say the kit, but I don't think it makes for an exciting listen, does it?
I think it might do for some people.
The kit is nice.
The kit is both kits are nice. The third
like the
and the
home
home.
strip.
I
Yeah.
like the home strip too. It looks good in the flesh also. And
the sponsor as well. It's nice to have a local sponsor.
It is.
Not some betting firm from
Kenya.
another part of the world looking to expose or to get into a market in another country. It's a local sponsor.
It is. It's good that they've done that.
Yeah, and the best thing is, it looks all right on the shirt.
It does. Yeah, it's not Flamingo Land-esque or anything like that, is it?
No, it's not
poured.
completely. It's not like obtrusive.
It's not obtrusive. The third kit has really divided opinion. I've seen on social media. Some people immediately, I hate it. Others immediately, I love that. But I mean that's fine. But there's no in between with that kit. It's definitely Marmite, isn't it?
What? No, I thought it was Ibiza Blue.
You get what I mean.
Yeah. Again,
I mean, we both agree. I think it's a nice shirt.
It goes back to what I was saying earlier on, where because everything's negative, it's like where there's something that they don't like. It's like it's almost like they took your jobs.
Yeah, it is. The other thing is, what do you see all the time? If somebody doesn't like a shirt, they must have spent 5 minutes designing that. And it's like, oh, please, you have absolutely no idea how the intricacies of designing a kit even works. They didn't spend 5 minutes doing that. I know a 5-year-old didn't design it. So
if you don't like it, don't
buy it. Exactly.
Don't worry too much about it because it'll probably only be worn twice. I mean, last season's third shirt was lovely. It was one of my favourite away kits we've had.
The teal one.
Yeah, I really liked that.
Yeah, it was a nice shirt.
I liked the
white The white
the
one.
marketing patter that Umbro put behind the third shirt last year, that it linked to that famous photo of the Boothry Park South Stand ticket hut.
Yeah, you see, Umbro do things properly, mate, don't they? With shirts.
It's like, what have I seen today? It's Burnley's kit, or their black away kit, which I think is made by Umbro as well.
Okay.
And they've said that the fact that the lion from Burnley's crest is woven into the shirt, that it sort of harkens back to Burnley's history and lets players and fans know that they're proud of their history and blah, blah, blah. That's bollocks.
What did the in-betweeners say? Do you like football? Yes, I do like football, but not Burnley. Burnley can fuck off.
And so can that quote, because I'm tired of it. Every fucking year.
Yeah.
I'm
just looking at the black kit, by the way. It looks all right, actually.
It's okay, but you see what I'm saying about like that marketing pattern? It's been written by somebody, and it's like it's a design feature. Nobody looks at that and says, "Oh, well, that harkens back to Burnley's tradition and history and blah blah blah." It's waffle.
Yes.
That they put in a press release. The thing was with last year's third strip was, all right, in a way, it's kind of like waffle as well, in that they're saying it goes back to the colours of Boothry Park and stuff. But there was that photo, and you could see that it was like, I can see what they're saying.
Yeah, I get that.
So this is a long way of saying, for as nice as last year's third kit was, we ultimately only wore it a handful of times. I think it was 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I can't remember that many games that we did wear that, but
don't worry about it that much.
Yeah.
Don't worry. If you don't like it, don't buy it, and you won't see it that often.
It's fine, mate. We won't judge you for not liking it, and nobody else cares. So
yeah, I like it. I think a third strip is meant to be something a little bit non-traditional.
It is a little bit odd. I will say they've announced the third kit before the away one.
It might mean that they're going to need to use it sooner or something.
Possibly,
like that.
Yeah. It may be to do with the colour that may clash with another team that playing or something like that.
It's purely speculation, but I reckon that the main away kit might be black.
Yeah, I think it probably will be, because it was white last year anyway. They wouldn't usually do the same colours 2 seasons in a row, would they?
They seem to rotate them in that way.
Yeah.
And I saw some people saying it's the worst kit that Umbro have done for us, but I mean, I don't know about that. It's not.
There are some right comments flying about on Twitter, aren't they, that nobody can back up with anything. It does make me laugh.
No,
that purple one I wasn't so fond of.
I mean, I have it.
Yeah, me too, but I don't really wear it that much. I bought it because, well, I think it was about a tenner when they were selling it off.
Yeah,
that's why I bought it.
I got it around Christmas that season. I got Livermore on the back, and then he left about 3 days later. So
beautiful.
I don't think I took the tags off it for about another 5 months. I've worn it twice because it's not really my colour. But it's not as garish as that. It's not as bad as the Premier League away kit from 2008-9. That grey one.
That grey one. Hell. If it was Man United playing in that, they'd have said they couldn't see each other and they could only see the fans.
Yeah. And, then 12 years later would be one up in that with a zebra kit. So
yeah, well, God, yeah. You see the
thankful it's not a zebra kit.
State of that kit. It's horrid.
Yeah, it's not.
I mean, we can't really talk with that tiger print shirt that I really chose as my first top number one shirt.
Classic, that mate. It's a design classic.
Yeah, well, actually, it goes with our nickname. If it's Red Devils for Man United, I'm not sure what zebras have to do with them. But anyway,
are the zebras in hell?
Red Devils. I have no idea. Maybe I'm not sure when that third kit comes out though. It's not out tomorrow with the home, is it?
No, soon. That's what they said.
It just said soon. Yeah, soon.
Gabbo.
Yeah. Soon.
Gabbo.
Yeah. So we will, I'm sure you'll be sitting at home watching the game in the new strip that you'll buy tomorrow.
Yes, yeah, shorts and socks on as well.
Full kit Wally.
No, I'm definitely not doing that.
No, I've known you for many years. No, that's not happening. that was that. I think that was all we had to talk about in AOB.
I don't
think there was anything else, was there? It was Radio Humberside and the kit.
Yeah.
Just a quick thing before we wrap up, I guess. I was looking at the anchor stats, Rich, for our podcast. We've been going approximately 5 months, and just so people are aware of the stats, and obviously it's always nice to know it yourself, I'm sure. Our total number of plays, 4,234 in 5 months, which I think is pretty decent going.
If we earned money from Spotify plays, that would get us 20p.
We could buy a Freddo, or maybe not these days, as price has gone up.
Curly Whurleys aren't as
Curly
big
Whurleys
to me.
Yeah. Just a couple of other stats before we finish. Why not? 74% of our listeners listen through Spotify. 16% through Apple Podcasts, 5% through Castbox, and 5% other. So that's more stats for you. And also, we have listeners all over the world. Most of our listeners are in the United Kingdom, but there are people listening and have done religiously since the start. Otherwise, they wouldn't come up on the stats. United States, Australia, Norway, Ireland, Belgium, Denmark, Romania, Brazil, Italy, Germany, Austria, and Canada. We have listeners all over the world. All Tigers spread out all over the world. All listen to Tigers, blah, blah, blah. So that's nice to know, I guess.
Yeah. You see, you can have a long name and go global.
That's it. So, are you listening, Iab? Are you listening? No, you're not. You'd never.
Google,
never.
Apple, Coca-Cola, Tigers,
blah, blah, blah. So, yes, on that note then, we'll keep our fingers crossed for the Gillingham game.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Me too, until the kick-off. And I'm sure we'll do a reaction to that game and then preview for the Crew game next week, probably at the same time. So you'll expect another episode from us next week. So Thank you for listening, and goodbye from both of us.
Enjoy the game.
Enjoy the game. Up the Tigers.